one of the most common issues between people is that they have perpetual differences between them. This is something that Gottman has done a lot of research on, and that the majority of your problems are going to be problems like that, where it's kind of part of who you are. You're never going to be as tidy as she is. I'm very impulsive. My husband is very planned. Like, he wants to know that on Friday we're going to do something. On Friday at 10 p.m., I like to be like, "Did you know that this restaurant is still open? We should go." And that throws them off. But that's a perpetual difference that the two of us have. We will always have it. And so it's not so much about changing your partner. And that's where people get really gridlocked, is they'll start to try to change the other person. They'll say, "Why aren't you learning to be as tidy as I am? That's the right way to
Yeah,
be." Or the right way to be is to be fun and impulsive and, live life as it
that's
comes. Or
me.
the right way to
Totally.
be, that's you. But my husband would say the right way to be is to know what's coming up, to know how long you're going to spend there, to really have a plan. And so he has survived. This is what I always say to couples: your partner actually survived every day of their life with that difference before they met you. And they had friends, and they had a life, and their house was fine. If they weren't as tidy as you, guess what? They still survived in a house. And so they're not wrong, and you're not wrong either. But how are you going to negotiate the fact that you're different? And this is where respect comes into play. And this is where also understanding what is core to that person comes into play, and caring enough about it that you can work around it. So for me, what is it about impulsivity? It's about having fun, right? And it's about sometimes just being able to take advantage of an opportunity. And for me, giving up being able to have fun and take advantage of opportunities would be a huge loss. Well, what is it for my husband about planning? It means being responsible. It means being prepared. And so if I can remember that he cares about being responsible and prepared, when I'm having an impulsive moment, how do I still play into that for him? Honey, I'd love to go to this last minute thing. What would help you feel like prepared with this? If I promise that we'll be back in an hour, would that help? And so instead of figuring out, how do I make my partner more impulsive, or how do I make my partner cleaner, or whatever it is, how instead do I care about what it is that's underneath that, and put that into play when we're coming up against each other with our difference?
Do you find, because as you're saying all that, I just consider how self-identity and just, like I have these, I'm clean or I'm impulsive, and I relate to your story about that. How do we remove the hierarchy that I think we often sort of moralize our own perspective, or like my cleanliness is a higher value, or my planning is a higher value, or my impulsivity is. So how do we do that? Because do we have, in your experience, do we have a proclivity to doing that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think anybody on either side would do
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right? So the person who's messier is going to say, "I don't waste all my time
totally.
on
Take
that. Like,
life less
what a waste
seriously.
of the
Yeah.
day." Who needs to do their laundry when there's so many fun things to do out in the world? So we tend to moralize. We tend to think that we are right and other people are wrong. And I mean, you can see that everywhere in the world. We're so
Yeah,
polarized,
very true.
right? The way I'm doing it and the way I think is right, and you're wrong. And that's personal work, first of all, to do. In order to be in relationships with people, you have to actually learn not to be so polar all of the time. And you have to recognize that the point of relationships is that you have another human in your life. And the point of having another human in your life is that they bring richness of different ways of being, perspectives, all of those types of things. And so when you catch yourself getting polar, which is totally normal when you are moralizing that you're right and they're wrong and all of that, what can you do to bring yourself to the middle? And to think, and this is about people you love. I'm not talking about people who you think are horrendous, whatever. You don't need to come to the middle with them if you don't feel like it. But with people you love, what can I come to appreciate about Andrew that he's different than me? And it doesn't mean, and because we're used to moralizing, then sometimes what people do is they start to make themselves bad. So if my partner is great at getting up in the morning and I'm terrible, and I wish that they would sleep in, but then I start to say, well, that's really nice that they wake up in the morning. They go for a run, they're healthier. I must be wrong. Well, it doesn't mean you're wrong either. So are you able to stick with and? Are you able to be in the middle? And are you able to recognize we're just different? And how do these differences bring richness to our life? I'm sure the difference in tidiness between you and your partner, while it can cause friction, also probably creates richness because she is making the house really nice and helping you maybe to learn how to keep things up and how to make things look nice. But maybe there's things that you also contribute to her. Maybe she learns to rest more, or she learns to play more, or something like that. I'm just making that up. I don't know if
That's
that's really.
true. I mean, those are kind of the middles that we found, which I have a great appreciation for her tidiness. Who can, you know? And yeah, there definitely is the experience of bringing more play and looseness or relaxation versus, and for me, being a little more structured. Learning the line liberation through limitation, which when I first heard that, I was like, that sounds awful. That was made up by somebody who needs to be in control. And now I'm like, oh, yeah.
But it helps a little
Yeah, it
bit.
does. It does.